Welcome back, everybody. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, this is what we're going over today. It's the EOTech XPS2-0 holographic weapon sight. So basically, about a year ago or more, I reviewed this guy here, which is the EOTech XPS2-0, which is the unit that, if you guys see military members, U.S. military members anyway, using EOTech optics, that's pretty much what they're using. There may be some exceptions, but 99% that's what they're using. And that optic has some features that a lot of guys just don't need and don't want to pay extra for. So I got a bunch of requests to review this, the 2-0, which is basically EOTech's budget line, if you will. So that's what we're going to be going over today. So with that, let's get up close and personal and take a look at some of the details. First, we'll get into the nomenclature, since I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that are new to EOTech. So basically, like I said, this is the XPS2-0. This is the EXPS3-0. So what does that mean? Well, the XPS designation means that it does not have an integral QD lower 1/3 co-witness mount, which is what we have here. So they do make an EXPS2-0. It's basically the same optic, but it has this integral quick detach mount on there. And then the 2-0 means that it doesn't have the 2 in there, means that it doesn't have night vision capabilities built into it, whereas here you'll see the night vision button on there. If it was to have night vision, like they do make an XPS3-0 that has the night vision capability, this does not. And then, of course, like I said, this is the model that typically you'll see the military members using out there, because it has the night vision and the QD lower 1/3 mount, whereas this just has your standard absolute co-witness mount for AR-15s. And this knob here is one of the options it comes with, and it also comes with a smaller screw. I just kind of like the bigger screw. It's easier for me just to mount and unmount, and I do that a lot. Obviously, running a YouTube channel, I'm constantly re-zeroing sights. So there is that. Those are the big differences. And then getting into this specific optic itself, one thing that's different about this versus previous generations of EOTechs is that it has the battery facing perpendicular to the bore. So unlike the 500 series of EOTechs, they had 2 AA batteries that faced forward. And the problem that they were getting with those a lot of times was that under recoil, they would flicker. And then eventually they would have some problems with the springs in there going bad, and sometimes they wouldn't work. So they fixed that by putting the battery perpendicular. It's an O-ring sealed compartment in here. It has that CR123A battery in there. It has that little retainer there, so that way you don't lose it. That's military proof, if you will. And then we have our windage and elevation knobs on there. Each click is half MOA and very tactile, very audible. I know that some people have mentioned that they think that they're exposed and may accidentally get bumped. I get how you kind of can see that, but in the 3D world, you can see that it's actually protected by our outer housing here by a good bit, probably about 1/4 of an inch. So there's really no way that you're going to have those accidentally get bumped. I never have. I've used EOTechs for years, so it's never been an issue that I have ran into. And then getting here on the rear of the optic, we have the on and off button, which is kind of deceiving, I think, because both of them will turn it on when you press them. However, the down button will decrease the intensity of the reticle, and then of course the up button will increase the brightness. Now, the battery life on this, as stated per the manual, is 1,000 hours. However, talking to EOTech's engineers for this review that I did a while ago as well, this is the XPS2-0 green reticle edition. One thing that the engineers had to do to get the green reticle to last 1,000 hours on the medium setting was just basically re-engineer some of the electronics, and they actually took that technology and put it back into the red ones as well. So any of the new production red ones will have that technology in there, so it's actually going to have a little bit more battery life from that, but they still advertise it as 1,000. When you turn your optic on, using one of these buttons, one will give you 4 hours, the other will give you 8 hours of continuous operation, and then it auto shuts off. That said, at any time during, while it's on, if you hit one of these buttons, it will reset that period. A lot of guys who use these in the military would constantly just fiddle with them, pushing them on and off to continue that battery cycle. It just sort of became an unconscious habit for a lot of folks. But there is that. And then to turn it off, you just press and hold both of them and it will turn your optic off. So there is that. We also have this housing here. You can see we have these screws there and there. And that protects the actual objective window that we have there. So the window is, field of view is whatever they say it is, but in reality, if you're using both eyes open, your field of view is unlimited. And one thing that people like about the EOTechs versus a lot of red dots is that the actual window itself is bigger. For me, I don't think it's a huge deal because I shoot with both eyes open, but I know a lot of guys don't. So for them, it makes their field of view look bigger if you're shooting with one eye closed. But again, that outer housing on there protects the actual optic itself from damage. Should these lenses get cracked for whatever reason, the optic still works. You can still use it. It's kind of weird, but it is one of the unique things about holographic optic. Even with it shattered, it's still usable. Again, just shooting with both eyes open, kind of using that bend and aiming concept, you will still get hits on target. Another cool thing about holographic optics is that they are parallax free. So what that means for folks that are new is that no matter where your head position is in the optic, relative to the optic itself rather, your point of impact will never shift. So with red dots, they all have parallax. Scopes, they all have parallax. Typically, they'll say that they're parallax free beyond 50 meters or something like that. But with an EOTech, you have absolutely none of that. So if you're shooting under a car or something like that, just weird positions, you can know that wherever that dot is, that's where the bullet's going to impact, assuming you zeroed it correctly. With the close-up portion out of the way, a few thoughts on the optic. First, before I even get into that, I suppose, full disclosure, EOTech did send this out for the review, but they don't know what I'm saying. They don't see this video before it goes out or anything like that. So I try to keep my reviews, as always, as unbiased as possible. So my experience with this one, I've had zero issues with it at all. In fact, I had a history of kind of hating on EOTech before the XPS and EXPS series came out. If you go back to my videos before these came out, I think they came out in like 2018 or 2019, you will see that I constantly recommended against EOTechs because my experience, the 500 series just had issues. I saw it personally over and over again. However, the XPS series, I've not seen any issues with personally. They've all worked fine, and I have several, as you guys have seen throughout the video. So there is that. Again, the 300-pound gorilla in the room is that during that time with those old 500 series EOTechs, EOTech got sued by the military because they had some thermal drift issues rather, and that's all been settled, and it's all public information if you guys want to look it up. But again, I haven't seen anything like that with the XPS series. Now all optics have thermal drift. There's no doubt about it. If it's made out of aluminum or polymer, it will have thermal drift, but the extent of it is mitigated by design, and the XPS series and the EXPS series has that. So holographic optics in general, why would you choose a holographic optic over a red dot, which has, you know, a 2-year battery life or something like that? Well, number one, like I said, there's no point of impact shift if you have an issue with your cheek weld, so there's that. And I think personally, based on my experience and training others and watching others, that they're also the fastest, particularly when things get dynamic. So if you're just standing there, you know, standing on a flat range, shooting at a target with a timer, you know, your red dot is going to be probably the same speed as this. But if you start moving and whatever you're shooting at starts moving, I think you're going to be a little faster with holographic optics. At least that's my experience anyway. For whatever reason, they just track better. I don't know if it's a larger window or just the holographic image itself. There is that. Speaking of the image, so people will often say that looking at the reticle on an EOTech that it looks fuzzy. Well, the reason it looks fuzzy is because you're not supposed to be looking at the reticle. You're supposed to be looking at the target and superimposing the reticle on the target. And if you do that, you'll find that the reticle becomes clear. Just a little tip there for folks who have never actually used one of these. Additionally, if you have an astigmatism, can't speak for everyone, but most people who have an astigmatism see these just fine, whereas they see red dots as stars and all of those sorts of things. And of course, the downside is the battery life versus a red dot. There's no getting around it. You can't just leave it on and have it on. But, you know, if you're a patrol officer or something like that, you're working an 8-hour shift, you can turn it on and it should be there the whole time throughout your shift. And again, if you just hit one of those buttons, it will reset that timeline. Cost on these is not inexpensive, but they are made in America. I know that's something that a lot of people do like. This particular one, MSRP is $575. Right now, I'm filming this in 2021 when the gun market is going crazy and everything's expensive, but you can still find these under MSRP right now, but it's not going to be too far below it. Regardless, there will be a link in the video description if you guys want to pick one up. Why would you buy this over the EXPS2-0? Well, If you don't want the QD mount, you don't want the night vision capabilities, that's really the big difference there. The other difference is going to be submergibility. This one's waterproof down to 10 feet for, I don't remember the exact amount of time, I'll put it here on your screen, whereas this one you can go a little bit deeper with as well. So if you're on a scuba team, you might want to go with this versus this. So there is that. But yeah, all in all, I mean, it's a good optic. I'm going to continue using it. I've used it a ton, and I have thousands of rounds on guns with this optic on it. And again, no issues, no flickering, no delamination, no nothing. So there is that. If you guys have any questions about the optic, you can post them down below in the comment section as always. You can also post those questions over on my social media that you see here on my screen. If you guys aren't seeing at least 2 to 3 to 4 videos a week here on the channel and you are subscribed, then make sure you sign up for my email list. That email goes out once a month, generally, sometimes twice, and it has all the videos since the last email went out, so that way there's no big social media giant censoring your eyes from my content. And we also have a daily deals email, so that way if this thing goes on sale for a smoking price, you can sign up at the email list here, at the website here rather, and I'll send the email out once a day, and with the best deals I find on the internet for guns and gear of that day. So that is it, guys. Thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.